What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the SFS channel. My name is Gavin, and today I've got a different type of video for you guys here on Monday morning. Traditionally, I do my waiver wire pickups, but due to the Ravens and Steelers game being delayed a day and now being on Tuesday night, ESPN and many fantasy sources out there have bumped back their waiver period today as well. So that's what I'll be doing here on the channel. Tomorrow morning on Tuesday, I'll have my waiver pickups for you guys. But today, I've got my rest of season quarterback rankings for you guys. So I've got my top 15 players at the position for weeks 13 through 16. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And as always, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and turn that bell on so you're notified whenever I come out with a new episode. Let's not waste any more time. Let's hit the intro and get into my top 15. All right, getting things started out here with my number 15 spot on the board. We've got Teddy Bridgewater, the Carolina Panthers quarterback. And the number 15 spot, I had some troubles picking out who the guy was going to be that I'd give this spot to. And I ended up going with Teddy B here for a couple of reasons. First of all is his rest of season schedule. It's not terrible, I don't think. Here in Week 12, I'm recording this video before the games are up and live. But he's got Minnesota this week, then Denver, Green Bay, and Washington the rest of the season. So he definitely has some matchups that he can exploit. We've also seen Teddy be slightly dynamic this season and tuck and run the football and have some success while doing so on those attempts. So I like Teddy for that. And then finally, Matt Rule and that offensive personnel. They're fantastic. They're well coached. He's got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Davis to work with in that offense. So I think there's a lot of things going for Teddy B this season. And for a guy who's consistent and doesn't turn the football over, I think he's a nice starter in lineups with a needy quarterback position. Derek Carr is my number 14 quarterback up on the list here for the Las Vegas Raiders. And he's a guy who's just in a very consistent and efficient offense in Las Vegas. And this is a guy, they want to run the football. They're going to run it 25, 30 times a game. But that sets up great play action passes. And Nelson Aguilar and Henry Ruggs are great deep threats to capitalize on those opportunities. Derek Carr also has not been turning the football over very much this season. So he's a trustworthy and dependable start. He doesn't necessarily have a super high ceiling, but I really like his floor. He's got also guys like Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs he can trust there as well. So Derek Carr, I think, is a solid and sturdy start, but not necessarily a guy you're hoping that can carry your team to a win. My number 13 quarterback for the rest of this fantasy season is Jared Goff, and don't ask me why this is his picture on playerprofiler.com. I don't understand some of their inside jokes here. I love their website. It's got a lot of great information on it, but some of their player pictures are a little bit strange and questionable. If you guys know what that picture is even from, let me know in the comment section. I've never seen that before. So anyways, though, great offense that Jared Goff is in. He's got a very dynamic attack with running and throwing the football. They have a very good play action game, and Sean McVay is one of the better signal callers in the NFL. I think Jared Goff's stock is going to continue to rise for the rest of the season. He's got notable matchups against Arizona, the Jets, and Seattle in the championship game that can really skyrocket his value. I love his weapons, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee, and those running backs are very solid. So I think there's a lot of things to like about Jared Goff the rest of the season, and he's a very under-the-radar play in fantasy lineups in the fantasy playoffs. My quarterback 12 for the rest of the fantasy season is Matt Ryan, and now we're starting to get into guys that I think are low-end starters for the rest of the year and not necessarily high-level streams. So Matt Ryan, obviously that offense has great personnel and is highly talented, but the main thing keeping Matt Ryan lower on this list for me is his fantasy schedule. Down the stretch here, he's got New Orleans, Tampa Bay, the Chargers, and Kansas City. There's some very good fronts in those matchups, some very good secondaries, and some very good teams at getting after the quarterback and pass rushing. So Matt Ryan, that team, the one thing they really struggle at offensively is a solid running game. Todd Gurley has been a red zone monster and eating up goal line carries, but in terms of rushing efficiency and the actual yardage total they get on the ground, it's not really quite there. This is a passing football team, and they're slightly one-dimensional. So those good defenses, when they can key in on one thing, they're going to cause the Falcons to struggle. So Matt Ryan, I'm cautious on the rest of the season, but the offensive personnel keeps him as a low-end starter for the rest of the year. Big Ben Roethlisberger lands at my QB 11 spot for the rest of the year here. And a similar situation to Matt Ryan. He's got a great offensive weapon core, but this team has a tougher schedule the rest of the year and some not so favorable matchups. Notably, they've got Indy here coming up. So Big Ben, he's got Juju though, Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson. So some great options to throw the football to there. Only 5 picks this season for Big Ben, but I think that just because of that scheduling, we have to be a little bit more cautious. Ben is still a nice level starter, but I'd be cautiously optimistic about his fantasy value the rest of the way. Ryan Tannehill is my quarterback 10 for the rest of the fantasy season, and this is a guy who has a really nice closing schedule here the rest of the year, and even in an offense that has low passing volume, they are still highly efficient when they throw the football because of how effective Derrick Henry is on the ground, and when he runs the ball so effectively, it sets up play action great and allows Tannehill to air it out down the field, which he is very good at, and he is highly effective under pressure as well. So Derrick Henry is a guy I have said is my top RB the rest of the fantasy season, but Ryan Tannehill deserves some respect as a passer as well. This offense is going to be clicking the rest of the year, and with guys like A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, and Jonnu Smith, Tannehill has some solid options to throw the ball to, and I think we'll see him have a strong finish to the 2020 campaign. Coming in at my number 9 spot, I've got Tom Brady, the Tampa Bay Bucs quarterback, and despite losing a game of usage in Week 13 due to a bye week, I really like his schedule the rest of the way this season. I think Tom Brady is going to go up my rankings list come fantasy playoff time here because that week of ineligibility will be gone. But Tom Brady, he's got the Atlanta Falcons, he's got Detroit and Minnesota, and then Atlanta again for leagues that finish in Week 17. So a lot of nice matchups for TB12 here the rest of the season. I think he's a guy that's going to thrive with all those offensive weapons. He's got Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Rob Gronkowski. With the great scheduling and all the weapons he has to work with in Tampa, I think TB12 is in for a strong finish to his season. I think that lately he's been struggling, but those are against some good defenses. The Rams and the Saints notably got after him. They blitzed him, and they made him very inaccurate. So I think with that lightened up schedule, though, and some weaker secondaries, Tom Brady is going to finish strong for your lineups. My quarterback 8 for the rest of the fantasy season is Lamar Jackson, the Ravens quarterback. And Lamar has actually lost the eligibility to play Tuesday night's game against the Steelers due to him testing positive for COVID-19. So Lamar is not going to be in this week. That's going to really hurt some lineups, and he's not going to be able to play. This is probably the biggest case we've had so far this season in terms of a team losing their starting quarterback. But Lamar Jackson, when he comes back, I love his schedule the rest of the season. He might potentially be ready to play next week. There's a chance he gets cleared for that game, but rest of the year, he's got Dallas, Cleveland, Jacksonville, and the Giants. So lots of things going for Lamar Jackson once he hits the field again. And as a whole, I think the Ravens as a team, in terms of fantasy production, are going to see an increase in their outputs down the stretch. At quarterback 7 here, I've got Josh Allen, and he has simply been phenomenal this season. Him and Stephon Diggs have been one of the better wide receiver to quarterback combinations this year. And Josh Allen, the rest of the season, he's got a little bit tougher of a matchup. He's got Pittsburgh, San Fran, and New England in Week 16, which has given him struggles throughout his career. So some tougher games for him, but I still think that offense as a whole has been very functional this year. I think they're going to produce quite well. John Brown notably just went to the injured reserve, and he's been noticeably worse with him off the lineup. So Josh Allen, though, he's still got dependable options. Cole Beasley, I love him in fantasy. I've been talking about him for a couple weeks here, but I think he takes a little bit of a hit because of the John Brown injury in the schedule, but he is still a nice level starting quarterback and a guy I'd be pretty excited about going forward because he's got the deep ball ability to go off and score high levels of points at any time. So Josh Allen, a great start the rest of the season, just down in my rankings because of that tougher schedule. Coming in at QB6, I've got Deshaun Watson, and this guy has just been phenomenal all season long. Deshaun Watson has been the entire Texans offense seemingly. I mean, if this guy has a down week, the Texans are getting blown out because this is really the only hope they have right now. Him and Will Fuller have been great this season. Brandon Cooks has been very productive as well, and Randall Cobb has had his moments on that offense. So obviously Deshaun Watson, a high-level starter because of that rushing value as well. He's got a really safe floor, and even against tough matchups this season, we've seen him produce well. He's currently quarterback 3 right now, but I think he takes a slight step back because of those difficult matchups. But like I said, extremely safe floor for him because of that rushing value and that superstar caliber play that he has when he's on the field. Justin Herbert comes in at quarterback 5 for me for the rest of the 2020 fantasy season, and this is a guy who probably ends up walking away with the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. He's been exceptional, and with that Joe Burrow injury, I think he has that title in his grasp right now. I did not expect Justin Herbert to be this good this early, especially as a rookie, and he has completely blown my expectations out of the water. With Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in that offense, he's been exceptional, and he spreads the ball around to other guys as well. His deep ball has been off the charts, and with Austin Eckler coming back to the lineups, I think that really helps his value as well because he has a really safe check down option now too. So Justin Herbert, he's shown he can run the ball as well. He's physical and puts his shoulder down when he's near the goal line, and he finishes runs off here. So all around a great player, top to bottom, and a guy with a nice schedule coming up here down the stretch. He's got Atlanta, Las Vegas, and Denver here as some notable matchups that he can exploit. So I really like Justin Herbert the rest of this season, and I think he's a top-level producer in lineups the rest of the way. My QB4 for the rest of this fantasy season is Aaron Rodgers, and he's pretty much shown that he is somewhat matchup-proof. 3 touchdown passes and 2 turnovers against the Colts last week. Still netted 21 fantasy points in standard quarterback scoring. So I love his matchups the rest of the season as well. Detroit, Carolina, and Tennessee in the fantasy football playoffs. Those are all matchups I think they can exploit. And Devontae Adams and A-Rod has been the best connection all season long from quarterback to wide receiver. Those guys are unstoppable and are just on the same page each and every snap. So Aaron Rodgers, a top-level fantasy producer here going forward. Quarterback 6 right now, and I expect him to continue to thrive in all matchups. Russell Wilson comes in at my QB3 for the rest of the 2020 fantasy season, and this is a guy I had at my number 1 spot for the majority of the year, but his turnover count as of late has moved him down my rankings, and the matchup he has in the championship game in Week 16 against the Rams is highly unfavorable as well. The Rams completely threw Seattle for a loop offensively in that last matchup they had earlier this season, and they've actually been very good against the Seahawks the last few years as well. So Russell, I expect to struggle in that game, but going forward is going to continue to be a high-volume passing team. They've got great weapons offensively, and their defense is bad, so they're going to continue to have to throw. Russell Wilson's dynamic and can also run the football with his legs. So there's a lot of things going for Russ right now, but there's also some slight negatives. I would be careful with him against the Rams in that championship game, but I think he's an elite starter the rest of the season, despite that matchup. Right now, in standard quarterback scoring, Kyler Murray is QB1 in fantasy football, but he is my number 2 ranked quarterback for the rest of this season. Kyler Murray is so shifty, his deep ball is great, and him and DeAndre Hopkins have been one of the best combinations in the NFL this season. He's also got Larry Fitz and Christian Kirk to work with in that offense, and Chase Edmonds is an underrated weapon out of the backfield. Since week 1, Kyler Murray's been great. He's been one of the more dynamic players at the quarterback position, but the one thing to keep your eye on the rest of the season, if there was anything to be worried about him with, is that AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder. Currently, I'm recording this video before the Week 12 games, and he's warming up for his matchup, so he's expected to play. I think he'll be fine going forward, but something to monitor. Kyler Murray, though, a top 2 quarterback play for me the rest of the fantasy season. And finally, coming in at my number 1 quarterback spot for the rest of the fantasy season, we've got Pat Mahomes, and this is simply just the best quarterback in the league right now with the best offensive head coach and the best offensive personnel. I mean, he's got a laundry list of guys to get the football to. We've got Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Le'Veon Bell. The list just goes on and on. These guys are great players. Under pressure, Pat Mahomes has been great this season. When teams blitz him, his quarterback rating is off the charts, and he's basically matchup proof. He's the best guy in and out of the pocket. Once Pat Mahomes breaks the tackle box, the panic button is being smashed by defensive coordinators. This guy can air it out down the field and score points in a flash. So Pat Mahomes, my number 1 quarterback for the rest of the year, and a guy that can probably go out there and steal some fantasy championships. Those are my top 15 players at the quarterback position for the rest of the 2020 fantasy season. As always, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and turn on that bell so you guys are notified whenever I come out with new videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, I'll be posting my waiver wire video tomorrow because of the delay in the Week 12 schedule. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.